for establishing African Liberation Day. As a matter of fact, African Liberation Day was established so that all Africans could have a day on which to focus attention on the need to make significant contributions to the liberation of Africa from the yoke of colonialism. Now, it's important to note that at the time that African Liberation Day was declared, many African countries were still under the yoke of colonialism. And indeed, South Africa was still engulfed in apartheid rule. Racism was rising all over the world, and the African was still being treated as a second-class citizen of the world, and so on. It was also at a time when African leaders and countries had come to the conclusion that armed struggle was legitimate and that we could pick up weapons and fight to liberate the continent from the yoke of colonial exploitation and domination. Now, it is significant that today, many African countries and leaders are not observing Africa Liberation Day as Africa Liberation Day. Indeed, the AU itself has come to the conclusion that instead of calling it African Liberation Day, we perhaps have to refer to it as Africa Day. So the liberative aspect of the celebration has been taken out of the equation. Now, it is worse in countries like Ghana, where it is no longer a public holiday. It has become a day, a commemorative day. And when I heard about the program that the Ghana government was putting forth this year, I nearly collapsed with shame. The proposal from the Ghana government to celebrate African Day or African Liberation Day was to organize a jollof competition between Ghana and Nigeria. What an embarrassment. What an embarrassment. Now, the assumption that African liberation is over, that the war for national liberation is over, is exceedingly strange. Having regard to the fact that as we speak, Western Sahara is still under colonial occupation. So that agenda is not complete yet. It's also important for us to understand clearly, that is, if you're looking at the diaspora, the African diaspora, and the AU itself has declared the African diaspora as a region of Africa. So it means that whatever happens in the diaspora is something which must be of concern to the African people. So we are in a period where West Papua is still under colonial rule, has not been liberated yet. And then you have the Geisha Islands in the Indian Ocean, which have been colonized by the United States, Britain, and others, and it's actually being used as a NATO base, and that struggle is still ongoing. In the face of these challenges, how our leaders and governments can decide that Africa no longer needs liberation is shocking in the extreme. And this perhaps can only confirm the fact that the orientation of these leaders is neocolonial, that these leaders are in a hurry to return to the embrace of the colonial metropolis, and the evidence abounds. You know, after independence, something very strange happened. The English-speaking countries in Africa decided to join the British Commonwealth, where the Queen of England is forever the leader, is forever the head, and so on. And we began to raise questions about this. I mean, British Commonwealth, what is its value? We are independent countries. Why do we join the British Commonwealth and so on? The current president of Ghana and some of his colleagues have made matters worse. Those who were colonized by the French joined the group which was known as the Francophonie. Now, in Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the president, has decided that the British Commonwealth is not enough. So Ghana has formally joined the Francophonie, the association of people and countries colonized by the French. We have joined it. Now it doesn't end there. Togo has joined the British Commonwealth. What is happening to these crazy leaders? It's unbelievable. In Ghana, 67 years after independence, and we want to join the club of French neocolonialists. You can't believe it, but that is what is happening on our continent. Now, it is significant also to note on African Liberation Day that West Africa is boiling. And West Africa is boiling because of the resistance of the people to French imposition, to French military bases in the sub-region, to French economic control in the sub-region, and to French political control in the sub-region. Of course, this has led to or resulted in coups d'etats in Niger, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, and in Guinea. But what is the response of these leaders on puppet strings? What is their response? Their response, in part, was to send their soldiers to be killed in Niger in an adventure which was aimed at restoring President Bazoum to power, with the help of the French. The French quickly told them that we are ready to give you $20 million. Go and kill the people of Niger and install the president they don't like. Incredible but true. As we speak today, Benin is seriously hampering export of oil from Niger by crossing its border. What interest is Benin serving today by crossing its border with Niger? Unbelievable, but it is true. And matters get worse. The president of Ghana actually went to the White House and was virtually begging the Biden administration to send him resources to fight Burkina Faso, because Burkina Faso is tolerating the Russians. Unbelievable, but true. Completely unbelievable, but true. Now, you see, before the coup d'etat in Burkina Faso, 60% of the land territory in Burkina Faso was under the control of insurgents, so-called Islamic insurgents, and so on. The French were there, the Americans were there, but the insurgents were gaining control. They were taking over Burkina Faso. Burkinabe soldiers were being killed like ants and so on. The Russians stepped in. There's a reversal of the situation. As we speak now, the Burkinabe government is in control of more than 60% of the land territory of Burkina Faso. And this is what President Akufo-Addo doesn't like. He wants the US to assist him to change this equation. You can't believe what is happening. As we speak, all of us know. As we speak, all former colonized French colonized countries, Togo, Benin, and so on, they are compelled to keep their foreign exchange reserves, in the Central Bank of France. They borrow their own money, they pay interest on their own money, and so on. And yet, we cannot celebrate African Liberation Day. We have to celebrate African Day with jollof competition between Ghana and Nigeria. That is the focus of our leaders. Incredible, unbelievable. But that is the focus of our leaders. Now, friends, in the midst of all of this confusion, in the midst of all this betrayal of the African people and so on, there is still some hope. And some hope is emerging. In West Africa, the West African People's Organization has emerged. has emerged with membership from the trade union, some trade union movements, notable trade union movements, from women's organizations, youth and student platforms, and political parties. And the West African People's Movement is mobilizing the peoples of West Africa into a formidable force to resist neocolonialism and to offer an anti-imperialist platform. This is hope for West Africa. On the broader continental field, more and more progressive organizations are beginning to collaborate within the framework of Pan-Africanism. And that is also very healthy news. Now, it's important to understand clearly that from the 1940s, our leaders, those who led the national liberation struggles, were clear that the first step to the prosperity of Africa was to win the national liberation struggle, to become independent. And of course, the second stage was to take steps to unite Africa under the banner of socialism. And today there are various forces in Africa, in Ghana and elsewhere. Indeed, in Kenya, Ghana, many other places, South Africa and so on, who are engaged in the bold and heroic struggle to build socialism, to build a system of government which encourages and enables mass participation, to build new societies in which healthcare will be accessible to all of our people, to build new societies in which housing becomes a social project rather than a commercial project from which the bourgeoisie would increase the size of its pockets. To build new societies in which education is really about the felt needs of the people and how to achieve those needs, in which education includes the learning of our history, our true history, so that that history can help us to understand the past in order to move into a new future. Today, the forces of socialism in Africa are struggling for a new situation in which trade union rights will be guaranteed. Yes, we do know that over the last 30 years, these bankrupt neocolonial leaders have been working so hard to restrict trade union rights. And so the proposal they have put on the table has included dismantling the check-off system, which will financially cripple the trade union movement completely, banning solidarity strikes, which will make the trade union movement less effective, and banning the formation of trade unions in so-called security zones and so on. It's our task as revolutionaries, as socialist revolutionaries, to resist these changes in industrial relations acts across the continent and to empower the labor movement so that it can continue to play its role as a vanguard of the struggles of workers for better working and living conditions. Limited as this objective may be, it is still a major contribution to advancing the cause of the African people, including the peasantry, to realize their own aspirations and to build the societies that they want to build, the societies that they want to live in. On this day, well, African Liberation Day passed last week, but African Liberation Day should remind us of the enormous task ahead of us and the need for us to be fully committed to achieving those objectives. And what are some of those objectives? It is up to us as African people living today to make sure that no part of our continent is occupied with foreign military bases. We should make Nkrumah's dream of an Africa without a bomb a reality. That is our task. African Liberation Day should remind us of the need to unite the African people and to learn from the example of Ahmed Sekou Toure, Modibo Keita, and Kwame Nkrumah, who built the Federal Republic, who federated Ghana, Guinea, and Mali in those days. African Liberation Day should make us understand clearly that the current form of the AU is not taking us anywhere. And that Agenda 2023 is a useless agenda. Why should we wait till 2063 or something? Useless agenda. We need liberation now, today. Not in 2063. Why are we waiting till 2063? We need the liberation now, today. So let us join our forces and wage these battles for a free Africa, a new Africa, and a prosperous Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr. Now we'll move to the studio audience. Let me see by hands those who want to make a comment, who want to ask a question. Yes, one. Then Teresa, 2, 3, and then 4. So we'll start with you, Comrade.
Good evening, studio audience in the US up there. I think it has always been good to come and sit down and listen to Comrade Pratt. We always learn a new thing from him, and today it's the same. I'll have to stress on one thing. I think the 1963, where the African Liberation Day was inaugurated, there was an insistence that Africans should consider Palestine also as part of our struggle to liberate it. I've read books and they've mentioned the name of Palestine, and I think at this moment of African Liberation Day, we should remember the people of Palestine and the kind of struggles they are going through. Secondly, economic emancipation of our African nation is very, very paramount. As we are here now, a lot of people are living in Africa. A lot of the masses are without food. They are sleeping on empty stomach, despite the fact that we've got all the important minerals, wealth in our continent. Then let's talk about the wars. Somewhere in Darfur now, people are fighting. I think in the Congo too, similar these things. And that's not what our leaders, our founding fathers fought for. Those furious days were furious days where they laid down their lives for us. So we plead with our current leadership, who are kowtowing to capitalism and all those things, to make African people bereft of the kind of happiness that our leaders, former leaders, dream of. I'm grateful to you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Kwesi, for the insightful presentation. I think for me, what really baffles my mind is how our leaders, seamlessly don't think about the interest of the people, and it's all about their selfish interest. Because if we look around the continent, a lot of mishaps are happening, and it's not just by coincidence. If we consider what happened in history and what is happening now, we have to wake up as people to fight all that is going on. Because if even celebrating African Liberation Day is being minimized to jollof competition, it's a very big problem for us. We don't really value what our forefathers fought for and where they seem to take the country to. For us to lay a hold of our own resources and utilize it for our own benefit. If you look at the economy now, things are very much unstable. People are suffering day in and day out, and it's really chaotic. But then our people seem to be in alliance with our former colonial masters, and it's really problematic. So I think it's a wake-up call for all of us as youth to get up, to rise to the occasion and forge socialism ahead so that we can enjoy a better living condition in the country. Thank you.
My question is pretty much covered. I think that I should go more on the cultural aspect about how to popularize African Liberation Day. We do know what our leaders are doing, but we have difficulty getting to the ordinary people to even know African Liberation Day. The way I even understand African Liberation Day today is completely different of how I understood it 20 years ago. What is it that we are learning in schools? Why do we have to celebrate that? But how we as progressive organizations, we are going to go in the street and actually tell these stories. And it goes to a comment I got from one of the Congolese elders once about the struggle around to defeat apartheid. He said that this was a continent-wide effort, that you could go to Senegal in Dakar in a school and a teacher will write on the chalkboard, apartheid is a crime against humanity. Those days are no longer here, right? So how today teachers can teach the story, the true story of African Liberation Day, and say that the liberation we haven't yet achieved and we must continue to fight to get the liberation.
Thank you, GS, for the wonderful submission, as always. For me, I think liberation means different things to different people on this continent. And it appears for the leaders of Africa today, so-called leaders, who incidentally are puppets of the Western regime, used to exploit us. For them, liberation means getting away the external enemy, so that the internal enemy will have enough space to operate, exploit us, so that that profit can be shared between them and the external enemy. So for them, it's enough. And for a day like African Liberation Day, it has to become African Day, so that they can cook some sumptuous meals and eat and dine and wine. For us, liberation means something entirely different. For us, liberation means political independence. It means economic emancipation. It means fighting to get away from the colonial yoke and making sure that we are not in the grips of the colonial metropolis anymore. For us, it means that the International Monetary Fund and all the international monopoly finance system should no longer determine for us, you know, how we finance projects in this country, and you know, how we look at the economics of the world. So yes, it's quite understandable when they speak that way and when they act in those ways, in various ways. And for us as the younger ones, it tells us that we have a lot of task ahead of us, that we need to, as it were, study the world, understand what our real problems are, and see the way forward, that we cannot continue following these stooges and doing exactly what they want us to do. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So now we'll go to our social media platforms and listen to what our viewers are saying. You are okay, sure.
Hi, good evening, viewers. My name is Junior Johnson, and I'll be reading some few comments from our social media pages. So this from Adam Kwashi. He says, "Greetings to you all. How powerful would the United States of America be without? How powerful would the United States of America be?" He said, "How powerful would they be without assuming Washington D.C. was the only state in America? If the whole Africa is united, I have no doubt that we will be more powerful than any force that is seeking our backwardness. We cannot fight the enemy when we are divided. The African Union is a symbol, but we must act in ways to give meaning to the symbol of African liberation. The problem in Ghana is that our leadership is bent on achieving a vision of state capture. This is an insult to those who fought and died for us to be free today. Kwame Nkrumah's vision for Pan-African was right yesterday and is right today. The socialist movement of Ghana is an inspiration to Africa, that the only way forward is when we realize the Pan-African vision." This is from Edem Kwashi. I'll be taking some messages from our Facebook page as well too. This person says, "Most of the time I ask myself, so Nana Addo waited all these years to become president of Ghana, only to become the worst ever president in the history of Ghana." He says Nana Addo is a shame. And this person says, "That's a great presentation from Comrade Kwesi Pratt." This one says, African Liberation Day is a reminder of the resilience and strength of the African people. I'm proud that the SMG recognized this. However, it is appalling to see the unemployment rates in Ghana are still high and the government effort to create jobs have been insufficient. This coming from Desmond. This person also says, honoring the heroes who fought for Africa's freedom today, their legacy lives on in our continued pursuit for justice and equality. As for our leaders, the least said the better. The economic situation in Ghana is worsening and the government isn't doing enough to stabilize it, but they are devaluing African Liberation Day by organizing jollof competitions. This person also says, African Liberation Day is a testament to our unity and determination. Let's keep striving for a better future for all Africans. This user also says, celebrating the rich cultural heritage of Africa and incredible progress made by African nations. Happy African Liberation Day. Today we remember the struggles and triumphs of our ancestors, and I urge all the youth of Africa to rise up, because without rising up, we're always going to let these elderly people rule us the way they want. This one says, let's honor African Liberation Day by committing to building a more just and equitable society for the future generations. Grateful for the sacrifices made by those who came before us. Their fight for freedom and justice will never be forgotten. I'll read a few more and then I'll be done. It says, many Ghanaians are struggling with high cost of living and the government policies have not provided the needed relief. Yet, instead of them to honor a great day like this, they are honoring jollof competitions. This one says, the current administration lacks accountability and its citizens are losing trust in their leaders. Many of the infrastructural projects have stalled, leaving communities without essential services they need. Services like water, good drinking water, and electricity. I think that's all for our social media pages. Thank you.
Okay, we'll call on Kwesi to make comments on some of the issues that came up. One of them that struck me was the OAU's decision on Palestine and what that means for the Palestinian struggle in this current moment. And then you can wrap up and we call the day.
As a matter of fact, all the issues which were raised are issues which do not need further commentary. What I'm going to do is to try and see if I can expand the scope. You know, it has been said over and over that principle is not divisible. Now, what does that mean when we say that principle is not divisible? Principle is whole and so on. It simply means that if you uphold a principle, it must be upheld in all conditions. So if as Africans we fought against apartheid in South Africa, we were in principle committed to fighting against apartheid everywhere in the universe. If as Africans we were committed to the national liberation struggle, it means that we have a commitment in principle which cannot be divided to fighting for national liberation everywhere. And this is the connection with Palestine. Palestine may not be an African country today. But of course, if you get into history, you may find that Palestine has serious connections with Africa. Indeed, it has been claimed that the original inhabitants of Palestine were black people. Indeed, it has been claimed that if you go to the Vatican, you find portraits of Jesus the Christ with kinky hair and so on. So all of this may link us to Palestine. But the issue in Palestine is not about race. It's not about whether they were Africans or they could have been Africans or we originally lived in Palestine and so on. It is simply a case of apartheid colonialism. It's simply a case where one race looks down upon the other and recently has embarked on a mission to massacre the race that it considers inferior. I mean, anytime I listen to Netanyahu and his ministers and so on, I feel like I'm living in the 1940s, 1930s, the reign of Hitler. That's what I feel. When a minister of defense says that, look, every Palestinian is guilty of the October 7th attack, what does that mean? It means that every Palestinian deserves to be killed. When an Israeli minister actually makes the statement that more than 70% of the people of Gaza support Hamas and therefore they are legitimate targets, what does that mean? You understand? So I'm horrified by what is happening in Palestine. And we have a duty not just to show solidarity. Yes, solidarity is important. Making statements of support, writing statements, demonstrating and so on. But our duty is to end apartheid colonial occupation in Palestine. Solidarity only contributes to it. Sometimes, really. And this is television. And on television, you have to be careful what you say. Sometimes, I wish I were much younger and stronger. I hope the meaning is clear. Yes. Sometimes, I really wish I could play the role of Ralph Schuman. Ralph Schuman, the secretary to Bertrand Russell, who joined the Palestinian resistance. Sometimes I wish. Too old now, too weak now. But our duty is to ensure that the colonial apartheid occupation of Palestine comes to an end. And to end the hypocrisy and sometimes outright stupidity of Western leaders. Sometimes I just wonder how the West ended up with these kinds of leaders. It's amazing, you can't believe it. Look at the leaders they've got. One called Joe Biden. And the other one, what's his name? Something Macron, and so on. Emmanuel Macron, and so on. How did they get these leaders? Where did they get them from? You know, these are the leaders who are saying that, look, we are opposed to the genocide. We are opposed to the genocide. That's what they're saying. But what we need is a humanitarian ceasefire. And then we need to send in aid. What are they simply telling us? They say, let Israel stop the war for a while. Let us send bread and medicines to the Palestinian people, and the next day bomb them and kill them. Does this make sense to anybody? We don't need a ceasefire, we need a humanitarian pause in the war. Pause in the war. Send them bread and water and kill them the next day. So stupid. But this is being said on the international platform by old people, 80-year-old people. That's their level of thinking. Unbelievable. Completely unbelievable. Say, no, we are opposed to any aggression in Rafah. Israel must do the calculations and select those it kills. The bombs. How do the bombs select between women and children and older people and guerrilla fighters? The bomb has enough intelligence to do that selection. And they say all this is, and they supply the weapons for the killing. The United States is supplying billions of weapons, bombs. The other day they thought they had done something extraordinary. Biden was beating his chest. They had stopped sending the heaviest of the bombs, but they were sending the small ones. I think the small ones don't kill. Can you believe it? You're not sending heavy bombs. We are only sending small bombs. Small bombs don't kill. So we have a commitment to Palestine, and that's very, very clear. within our circumstances today, there are so many things we have to fight against. One of them is illiteracy. Illiteracy is a major problem. So many of our compatriots, when they fall sick and they go to hospital, they give them prescription. They can't read the prescription. They go to the pharmacy and they buy drugs. They don't even know what they are taking. This is one reason why we need to fight illiteracy. So everybody can read and write. Everybody can know what they are putting in their body. If for nothing at all, what they are putting in their body. And then we make noises about equal opportunity and so on. How can you have equal opportunity when in some parts of our world they have access to electricity and in other parts they don't have access to electricity? And I would explain. All of these children, from the rural communities, from the urban communities, from Roman Range and from Kotobabi down, they write the same examinations. You know that? All of them, they write the same examinations. So just imagine a situation where they go for the BECE exams. And the first English question, composition, is write about your favorite television programs. Those who don't have television sets in their house, those who don't have electricity in their villages, they have failed. Not because they are stupid, not because they are not smart kids and so on, but simply they don't have television. They don't know what television is. They don't have favorite television programs. So who is going to pass that examination? The minister's children, I mean the political minister, those ministers who sit in the ministries, their children are going to pass. The bishops and archbishops, those pastors, their children are going to pass and move on to greater heights in the educational system. Okay? The archbishop's child will pass. The bishop's child will pass. Poor people's children would never pass. We have to correct this situation. It's our duty to correct this situation. If we want to build a new Africa, this is part of the construction of the new Africa. You understand? Now, one of the things that actually annoys me, I was going to say shock, but it's not shock. It actually annoys me. It annoys me a great deal. Because we, who pretend to be revolutionaries or who claim to be revolutionaries, who want to change the world and so on, sometimes I think we are too arrogant. We are just simply too arrogant. Anytime I hear comrades say we are going to educate the masses, I feel like killing myself. I feel like dying. Who do you think you are to go and educate the masses? What do you know to educate the masses? They're going to educate the masses. Arrogance! Pure arrogance. Useless arrogance. What do you know to educate the masses? We are told that the mainstay of the Ghanaian economy is cocoa. Do you know how cocoa is grown? Do you know how it's dried? Do you know how it's exported? Do you know the level of exploitation of the cocoa farmer? Who are you to go and teach the cocoa farmer about exploitation? Our duty is to go to the exploited, the oppressed and dominated, and to learn about their lives and their struggles, and to participate in their struggles, not to teach them, because we know nothing to teach anybody. Our role is to learn, as Chairman Mao said, as Ernesto Che Guevara said, as Fidel said, as Kwame Nkrumah said. Our duty first and foremost is to learn about the struggles of our people and to become part of the people's struggle. Not to pose as masters and teachers and professors as well. We are not. In terms of the struggle, we are empty-headed bigots. That's what we are. And unless we shake ourselves from this empty-headed bigotness, is that how they say it? Or is that how it should be said? We are no use to the masses. So, is not a sermon. I'm happy that I was given this opportunity to share my views, even though I'm not too happy with being bullied before the mic all the time. But at least a conversation has been stimulated, and I'm grateful. And I do hope that these conversations will continue on Wednesdays, every Wednesday, and that these will not be left as just conversations. This will be organized as contact points for the millions of people who want to change the world. This will be organized at places for exchanging ideas and developing new ideas. And that Wednesday Palaver will grow to become a weapon of struggle against oppression and domination.
Thank you very much, Comrade Kwesi. We are also happy that you are happy to take up this assignment. I think it's been a very productive discussion. I hope that we have been able to understand that the liberation of our people, the liberation of ourselves from all forms of backwardness is a process that is still ongoing. And we are called upon to be part of that process. I mean, here in our country, there are different battles that our people are still facing. We cannot renege in being active participants in this process of liberating ourselves from the yoke of colonialism and neocolonialism. And in Gaza right now, it's manifesting itself in its most brutal stage. And again, we are called upon to be part of this process of liberation. You know, on the 8th of June, the Socialist Movement of Ghana and the Palestine Solidarity Campaign is organizing a car parade, you know, in solidarity with the Palestinian people. And Samuel Machel used to say that solidarity is not an act of charity, you know, it's an act of expression that we're having the same struggle, but in different territories. We call on everyone to take part, to join us in this car parade. There's a link that has been shared on all our social media platforms. Let's register and let's come out in our numbers and make it a very giant manifestation of our commitment to the Palestinian people. And thank you very much, our viewers, for always staying tuned to Pan-African Television. It is because of you that we do what we do. We are grateful for being part of this bigger family that is in the process of thinking through what our liberation strategy and tactics is. See you again next week. Keep your dial on Pan-African TV, and thank you very much. Red salute. No be so.
African. Truly African. Truly African.
Ha! Haka wodi some local faso. Baba, me again. Nessa wo yale. Me kwa dwuma wo hia me nti. Mentimi am sent my friend doctor when I'm kwaso wo ba. Say na for. See what we swear ni. is malaria? Malaria. Oh, what they say with the router? Me copy the absence here. A drone a friend router mix. Yeah, come malaria draw and running router. So
Gap trap and the draw kuya baso body ase. Wabo router mix.